Let's digitize an object. For bound material, such as a book, begin halfway through. This is the point at which the spread of the book will be largest. Adjust the binding width by unlocking and pulling apart the binding adjustment. Once it's set, relock. Then make sure that the book is centered left-right before bringing the platen down. Before we can capture an image, we'll need to start a session on both computers. Each institution is likely to have its own naming schema for books. In this case, we're going to use the name of the book, but in other cases, you may need to use the catalog ID, SKU, or unique identifier for the object. Shelley and his circle. The only change we'll make from default is to change the capture subfolder to left pages. Note that we're on the right computer, but we're naming it left pages. This is because the right camera sees the left half of the book. I've now repeated the naming on the other computer for a new session. We're ready to capture the first image on both cameras. Since this is a new session, none of our settings will have been applied. We'll need to crop and apply an LCC. In this case, I'm going to use the preset generated earlier for BC100 left page 300 ppi. We'll now use the crop cursor, setting an aspect ratio, and then cropping using the grids and guides to provide an even spacing above and below. We'll read the pixel dimensions, in this case 3109 by 4145. We're going to enter those pixel dimensions into the other camera to ensure that the crop is equal on both. (3109) by 4145. We'll use the grids and guides again to position the crop the same for both sides. Having set the crop on both computers, we can now switch to the hand cursor, which will bring us a view of just the relevant areas of the image. We're now ready to begin naming the book. So, we'll return to the cover. Make sure to recenter. Again, adjusting the cradle left and right. And now we'll be capturing just for the cover. In this case, it's assigning name and camera counter. We'll select ... and switch to name and 4-digit counter. The name of the book is fine, but we'll add an additional spacing element to make the name clear. We'll then set the capture counter to 1 and the increment to 2. We'll repeat these steps on the second computer. Name and 4-digit counter with an additional spacer. And in this case, we'll set the capture counter to 2 because the first page captured on this computer will be the left inside page, or page 2. The increment will likewise be set to 2. Each institution will have its own schema for how it names the pages of a book. Sometimes they're meant to track the physical page markings on the page themselves. In such cases, special naming may be used for the table of contents, inside left, inside right, cover, back, and other special pages. We're going to be using an example where we simply go from 1 to the end of the book. This is the most common naming schema and allows the most flexibility. It also requires the least amount of work naming for each individual object. We can now capture just the right cover. Notice the name, Shelley and his circle 0001, representing the cover. We open up the book, recenter, and capture both pages. Note that on the left side, page number 3 has been selected because of the increment of 2. On the right, the name is for number 2. You may wish at this time to change the sorting to sort by date. This ensures that no matter how you name, the most recent capture shows at the bottom. You may also wish to sort by name, allowing you to go back and do spot pages or do different types of treatment for individual pages in the center of the book. Before we continue, it's best practice to check the quality of the page being digitized for quality assurance. Using the hand cursor, we'll simply double-click in the top left, then zoom out again by double-clicking, and go to the top right, and bottom left of the image. The image is sharp and it's well rendered, so we're ready to proceed through the book. Note that the first few pages here are blanks. It is best practice in most cultural heritage institutions to include pages that are blank as an indication of the actual state of the object being digitized. There's no need to skip these blank pages. We want to show that they were there. Notice that I'm going to use my dominant hand, my right hand, to control the platen to prevent it from swinging. I'll use my non-dominant hand to turn the page and to trigger the cameras. By bringing my non-dominant hand out of the platen to trigger the camera, I remind myself not to have the fingers in the way of the closing platen. Also note, it's useful to only bring the platen to the required level. If we bring it all the way to the top every single time, we'll be raising it needlessly. In this case, this book only requires that I bring the platen to approximately this position before turning the page. Other larger or more rigid pages may require, in fact, a higher position. Remember that the speed of the platen is adjustable. If we raise it, we can go faster. This may be less suitable for fragile material. Notice that dropping the platen does create a slight vibration, but this vibration ceases almost immediately. By waiting 1 second, you ensure that the capture is done after the vibration is paused. Now let's take a look at what we need to do if we make a mistake on a page. I'll raise the platen, and instead of turning one page, I'll errantly turn two. I'm going to be looking at the page number of the previous capture while I capture the new pages. This will help me catch errors. I notice now that I've skipped a page. So I'm going to immediately go back, place the book at the correct page, delete the most recent capture, and recapture both cameras. The numbering is currently off. In other words, we have page 31, 33, 37. We've missed 35. We've skipped a number. Our suggestion is to use batch renaming at the end of the project to correct these errors. Correcting them as you go is also an option, but can often take longer than correcting at once at the very end. Let's take a look to see what happens if we make a mistake on just one page. In this case, I'm going to leave my hand in the frame accidentally. Now, one of these two captures is perfectly fine. The other one has an organic in it, or a hand element. However, we'd recommend you delete both most recent pages, including the one that was correct, and recapture both. This ensures that the same number of images are present on both sessions and makes it much easier to do quality control at the end of the session. Normally, it's not required to include an object level target in each page of a book. However, if you wish to include such a small target, we suggest adhering it using artist tape or some similar material to the glass surface. Having it at the glass surface will ensure the same focus plane, same color and tone as the object.